And Grover Norquist, who is the president of Americans for Tax Reform, joins me now to go over some of this. Grover, good to see you as always. We're in crazy town because I'm looking at some of the plans, and I was reading how Osterholm is advising the supposed President-elect Biden on all of this now. What's going to happen to our economy if all of this comes to pass?
Well, should the Democrats get and the presidency, they have told us, Biden has said on day one, he would repeal all of the Trump tax cut. For the median income family of four, that's a $2,000 tax increase this year and every year into the future. But that only gets you half of the $4 trillion that Biden says he wants to impose on people. He's talking about an energy tax. That's like a gasoline tax, but not just when you fill up your tank when you're driving, but your home heating oil, natural gas, your energy, everything that comes to you by transportation, things you buy in stores, all have a cost because energy is used to get them there by truck, trail, or rain. So the cost of living will go up. Your standard of living will go down. He wants to take our business tax, the corporate income tax, from 21%, which is where it is now, up to either 28 or 35. He said one sometimes and the other. But both of those, 28 or 35, are higher than communist China's business tax. So imagine businessmen around the world looking, should we build a factory in the United States? Oh. Under Biden, they'd take 35 or 28%. The Chinese communists will only take 25. It's less expensive and more profitable to invest in China than the United States. Those are the decisions that Biden says he'll impose. There are other taxes that we can just guess at because he wants to spend $11 trillion more than we plan to over the next decade, 11 trillion. He only plans to take forcibly in taxes 4 trillion more. So either the deficit gets very large or his tax plans are larger than he's willing to tell you before the election.
Yes, especially when you look at how they're approaching healthcare, the further nationalization of healthcare, and then with any kind of other lockdown. I mean, it's crazy to read this, and these are grim numbers. I think it's fair to say this is like it would be one of the highest tax increases in the nation's history.
Yes, possibly over World War II it got taller, but then it snapped back after that. It is a huge tax increase that they're willing to admit to. He also he says, those of your listeners or viewers who say, well, aren't I protected? I earn less than $400,000 a year. Right. And Biden's staff always says he'd never tax people who earn less than $400,000. Biden himself says he's going to have an energy tax, which will hit everybody. Biden himself says he's going to repeal all of the Trump tax cut, which is a $2,000 increase on the middle income family. It also means bringing back the Obama tax for Obamacare. This was the penalty that you pay, $700 up to $2,000 if you refuse to buy Obamacare. This was not money you pay and you get Obamacare. This was to punish you for not buying Obamacare and you get nothing for it. 5 million Americans were hit by that tax. When Trump came in, he took that penalty to zero. The penalty's still there in law. That's what's going to the Supreme Court right now, whether that penalty to force you to do something you don't want to do is unconstitutional. Right now, we tax things you do, but we don't tax you to make you do something. Right. That's new in American history and is perhaps very likely unconstitutional. But right now, that tax is zero because the Republicans took it to zero. Biden says he wants to return it, which is a tax increase on 5 million Americans, 3/4 of whom earn less than $50,000 a year. So he said, you know, when I told you if you made less than 400,000, I was lying about your being protected.
Right. And there are, I know that there's been some analysis out there that potentially you could even see, and this almost, it sounds crazy, but then when you sit down and you look at all the variables and you do the math, is it possible to even get to almost upwards of like a 90% tax rate, 100% tax rate when you're removing itemized deductions, you're removing the cap on the Social Security tax, and you're lifting the rate? I mean, is that actually in the land of reality where it could go that way?
When you look at states like California and New York with more than 10% income taxes towards the higher level, and we're now at almost 40%, and he wants to take it up another 12 and then add another 10. You at least get to 60 towards 70% as the highest possible marginal tax rate. If you, in losing deductions and credits, it could actually be perhaps a little bit more, but 60+% is what people in California and New York could end up paying. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, New York, California, New Jersey, and those individuals, those people wealthy enough to pay that, they'll end up leaving the state, leaving behind those who cannot move and who cannot pay it.
That's happening now. An awful lot of people are moved from New York down to, there are other states with zero income taxes. Now, people get educated and they build highways in Florida and Texas. Actually, in many ways, the education's better and the roads are better.
Being in Texas, I can attest.
New Jersey, New York, California have all sorts of challenges and their taxes are much higher. Do you really want to stay in a state where the state tax alone is 10, 12, 13, 14%? And then when you add up the federal one, it gets up into 60s plus. So the level of taxation that Biden has promised the left, and remember, when he did that surrender document with Sanders, the Democrat socialist senator from Vermont,
yes,
he gave him almost everything Sanders wanted. And Sanders' idea of the Green New Deal was close to $90 trillion. So we're talking between $11 trillion more in spending, which he's said in public, he says he wants to do, and then the 90, which is what Sanders left the negotiation saying, I'm happy. And we know what he wanted was 90 trillion. So maybe he only got in the high 80s. The push on Biden to spend and tax more will be unbearable, which is why if you live anywhere near Florida, pay attention, the Florida 2 Senate seats, that will determine whether the Republican Senate can say no,
yes,
any and all tax increases. And Mitch McConnell and a Senate where 90% of them have signed the pledge never to raise taxes of the Republicans, they're not going to give a penny in tax increases for Biden, who refuses to do any reforming of government. It'll be back to the last 6 years of Obama, where Obama couldn't raise taxes, couldn't get much through in terms of spending, very frustrated. He sat there throwing little lightning bolts like Zeus, but executive orders, which leave when he leaves.
Exactly. Yeah, they only last for the lifespan of the president's term. We're speaking with Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. I have to ask you, lastly, about this editorial that was written by, and we were coming in with his audio, this Dr. Michael Osterholm, who is one of several people on the coronavirus task force trying to get Biden to, if he's inaugurated, assumes the White House, to shut the country down again. Listen to this is what he wrote in the New York Times back in August. He says that those of us who kept our jobs are actually saving more money because we're not going to restaurants or movies or on vacations. Unlike in prior recessions, the personal savings rate has soared to 20% from around 8% in January. He adds, because we're saving more, we have the resources to support those who've been laid off. Typically, when the government runs deficits, it must rely on foreign investors to buy the debt because Americans aren't generating the savings to fund it. But we can finance the added deficits for the coronavirus relief from our own domestic savings. He says it funds investment in the economy. So he's saying that historic levels of debt is okay because some people have saved. Your thoughts on this?
And he's talking about massive tax increases on people's savings. Well, that, as dumb and destructive as it is added to what Obama Biden already said they're going to do. They want to raise taxes on companies, which will reduce the value of stocks, okay, the stock market. 100 million Americans have a 401k or an individual retirement account or a 403b. 100 million Americans, 53% of families at least have one of those vehicles. Their life savings is in a 401k or an IRA. They can measure it. It goes down when the stock market goes down. The stock market goes down when corporate income taxes go up. When corporate income taxes were reduced under the President Trump and the Republicans, you saw the stock market go to new heights. When people said, oh, there's going to be a Republican Senate to stop all this craziness, stock market went back up again because they weren't going to get hit with Biden's tax increases. When you increase taxes on savers, on businesses, you reduce the life savings for all Americans. And you can directly measure that for people with an IRA and a 401k. It's a tremendous drop in people's ability to support themselves in retirement if you do those tax increases.
Yeah.
And besides, we've got a vaccine that's already been invented and they're already making it. And any waiting is just them deciding to be annoying.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were wondering. I mean, why not? I mean, if it's like, why even have the discussion if we're talking about having a vaccine in just potentially a couple of weeks? Yeah, that's a.
But and it's being made. They were making
yeah.
them doing the testing because they said, we think this is really good. There's several out there that are within, getting the mother may I approval from some idiot in the government, but we know from the test that they're good. Even better, we know that they've been made already, produced already. So it's not like ramping up once you get approval. What the Trump people did to do warp speed to make it faster was they did all three tests, the little, the middle, and the big ones, in parallel rather than in series, so all at the same time. That saved us maybe a year. And they started making it as soon as they were pretty sure they were going to work. So you didn't then say, oh, well, we know it works. We don't have any, but we know what. No, now we've got them. Hundreds of millions being produced. We are ready to go. I mean, not to engage in any conspiracy theories, but it's a little convenient that the announcement of what we've known for some time now came after the election.
And that they informed the Biden team, but not the White House. They found out via the press. That's very interesting as well, I have to say.
That's not just a theory when you get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform. Appreciate what you do. Thank you so much. Good to see you again.